All right, so we're live, and today we're going to talk about branding in real estate. So, this is really going to be a talk for real estate professionals, but if you're in a space where you have clients or you're trying to boost your marketing for your own business, then this is the spot you want to be. And this will be about 30 minutes or less. So, I'll go through the topics on what you need to know when it comes to crafting a successful message for your business, whether you're a solopreneur or if you have a team or for your firm. So I'm titling this Unleashing the Power of Identity in Real Estate. So, as I mentioned, it's specific to real estate professionals like loan officers, realtors, investment advisors, anything like that that connects to real estate. And what I want to talk about today is crafting your own story of success. And this has to do with your brand. So, we're going to kind of lead this with welcoming you and also introducing myself a little bit before you just listen to anyone. So, just a quick background on what I have to bring to the table in terms of marketing. So, I have some experience here is that I started over a decade ago in marketing consulting. So, I acquired an accounting degree, an MBA, went into marketing consulting with Fortune 500 companies where we would segment people based on their survey results. And this was for market research teams at Fortune 500 companies like Yum Brands, GE, Humana, Procter and Gamble, and it gave me the opportunity to understand how people make decisions when they're purchasing things. So we would run a ton of paper towel surveys, toilet paper surveys, food, Papa John's, pizza, tons of different things, and it gave me a great side insight into qualitative and quantitative studies. From there, I then moved over to working with a startup out of Boulder, Colorado, helping them with PR, their LinkedIn, Twitter, and from there, I started my own marketing agency, working with anything I could get my hands on: accounting firms out of New York, dentist companies in England, blockchain companies out of Argentina. And it gave me a lot of experience working across the board in a variety of areas. I then got into building websites with WordPress and Adobe Premiere Pro 7, 8 years ago. And so this really started my journey from understanding the insights in psychology into the actions. And I've been in marketing ever since then, working with a variety of clients with my own consulting firm. And it helped me to notice a gap in real estate where I felt that it was kind of lacking in terms of people knowing how to do proper marketing. I felt like I could provide value in that industry. And so I've been here doing this over the past going on 3 years now in real estate specifically. So that's where we're at. That's my background in marketing essentially. And I really want to highlight the importance of why it's more important now than ever. So most of us saw the newly released results from the court case, considering the NAR and commissions potentially being cut for the buyer's agents. And I say potentially because a lot of real estate agents are saying, well, sellers are still going to pay 3% on a deal. So we'll see what happens there. But I think the space has now become more competitive. If I'm being straightforward, if I was a realtor right now and I saw this come through, I'm immediately rolling out a flat fee commission package immediately and undercutting everybody. And if I have that thought, then just think of how many other people have the same thought. So, what I see coming in the future is branding becoming even more important in the future than it is right now. And let's talk about a little bit about what that is. Let's define it because it's more than the logo you have on your shirt. It's more than the slogan you go by. A brand is really the emotional connection you have with people when it comes to your business. What do they feel and what do they think when they hear your name or they see your logo? The logo is just what triggers the emotional impact from your business. So they get that feeling and they get that connection based on either what they hear coming from you or online or they see anywhere in the world. We use this information to create a message around who you are and what you do. For example, it's very difficult for people to have or to assign more than one definition to a person. So if you're trying to be a realtor and you're have a landscaping business, it's difficult for people to think of you as more than one thing. We usually put one definition in our mind. If you're a realtor and someone says, Zach, what is that? So they're either going to think, are you luxury? Are you innovative? Are you business savvy? Are you specific to Charlotte? Are you in Florida? You see where I'm going with this? Your brand will create the perception that people have of you. So the best example I can give you is take Apple. If Apple started a chain of hotels, what would that look like? So I'll give you a second, and I'm sure that something came in your mind. If Apple started hotels, you know exactly what that's going to look like, right? Now, let's change it. If Hyatt started a shoe line, what would that look like? And you probably struggle a little bit more with that definition or what that would look like if Hyatt started a shoe. Let's try another one. If Nike, that's a shoe, let's say if Nike started a hotel chain, what would that look like? I'm sure you could instantly come up with something. It's probably athletic based. I'm thinking black and grays and whites. You can already start figuring out what that looks like. So look at where you are working right now and yourself and even your firm and ask yourself, does your firm or does it have a brand? And most of the time it's not. That doesn't mean you can't have a business. It means the business may not have a very strong brand. If you are not able to plant that brand into other industries, then that just tells you there's an opportunity for you to grow that brand and that message. So ask yourself now, what do I want people to think of when they think of my brand and my message? And that's really what it comes down to, that emotional connection. If I think Versace, if I think Gucci, Prada, if I think, Nikes, Tom shoes, Adidas, um, all of these brands have a brand, and that's why people pay a premium. When you have a brand, people will pay a premium for that. So now we know what branding is. Let's go to the power of perception and talk a little bit about that. So how clients perceive you is extremely important. It's really going to be crucial to your success. That's why it's very important, because your name is everything. If your name is tainted, tarnished, or you start getting a different set of ideals associated with your brand, it's hard to get in front of that. So now look at Diddy. That's it down the chute. Now every time someone thinks of Diddy, based on the news, if you've been following the news, his brand is now tarnished, and it's very, very difficult to fix that. And so be careful with what you're putting out into the world. So let's talk about how branding impacts trust. That's just one example of the news. You could make a misstep, and that can hurt years of work. It takes years to build a brand, but you can destroy it in just one bad decision. And different people will take you different routes with this. So some people will say your brand should be a personality or different than who you are, like Kobe. So Mamba mentality. Kobe created the Mamba mentality not only for performance, which is there's a way you can do that, but it created the brand around Kobe Bryant and who he was. He was elite in his thoughts and his drive to perform in clutch moments, that Mamba mentality. And so you can create a separate brand that pops out in certain moments. Paris Hilton is a great example of this. She's not actually dumb. She doesn't actually talk with the nasally voice that she does. She does that as part of her brand, and it works phenomenally well. So you can do that. I don't agree with those methods because you become an actor or a persona whenever you're in the public eye. So you can do it. I don't agree with it. The better way that I like to approach brand is that you just be yourself, not necessarily your authentic self, but you are yourself in terms of the message you want to put out into the world. So if you want to be seen as a luxury real estate agent, you will push things into the world that associates you with luxury. So, luxury cars, luxury outfits, travel, nice homes, um, diamonds, money, things like that that associate you with things that are luxurious. So that's what you put out into the world. And it needs to be the things that you actually like, the things you can speak to and touch on. If like for me, I'm not a luxury brand, so I'm not going to start talking about Ferraris or riding in one. I have no clue how to talk about that, and so that wouldn't be ideal. Even if I was in the luxury space, I would need to find an aspect that I am interested in, which is luxury travel. I like to travel, and I've stayed some luxurious places, so I can speak to that and put that into the world because I identify with it, and it's not fake. So you can choose whichever route you want to go, but my advice is you find the things you are interested in and that you enjoy, and you put those into the world. And so there's some tactics you can use here. What I typically advise is you make a list of 10 things that you're interested in, and off of those 10 things that you are interested in, you basically break them down into what areas or what items and what descriptions you are interested in each 10 of those items. So if you put food, what foods, right? What foods is it? Is it hamburgers, steaks, barbecue? And if it's barbecue, dig into that. Now, are you a grill master? What grills? Do you have a smoker? So you can go really, really deep into these 10 topics of things that interest you. And at the end of the day, once you've done all 10 topics, you have, 50 to 100 items that you can speak to. And that's how you create your content. And then that's how you get your brand out into the world. So that's just some advice on how you can figure out what messages you should get out to into the world that expresses who you are as a person, because the best way to do it is to be yourself, because no one can copy that brand because you're being you. And that's really where we get down to talking about your unique selling proposition. So, your USP, what do you bring to the table that no one else does? I see this too often. I actually had this discussion the other day. I asked someone, "What's your unique selling proposition?" And they said they didn't know. It's a common answer. And so I asked the question, do you want people to associate you with, homes only over 500,000, or any home, or just homes under 500,000? Obviously, under 500,000 wasn't the answer. They said, "Well, I would choose over 500,000, but I don't want people who actually want to buy a home under 500,000 to not use me. I don't want those people to feel left out." And I told her that's exactly what you want to do. You want people to say she's not for me. If you don't have someone who says I'm not for you, if someone doesn't come to you and you say I'm not the best fit for you, I'm going to send you to someone else, you do not have a brand. So if someone comes to you wanting to do a multi-million dollar commercial property, you most likely may not work in that area. You should say, "That's not for me. I know the person I can send you to." You should know what you specialize in and what your niche is and who you apply to. If those people are not for you, you should be sending them somewhere else. If you try to take on everyone, you don't have a brand. I've been there. Just as I mentioned in marketing, I would take on anyone. I didn't have a brand. And so I would say you need to determine what you want it to be and how you can get that message into the world. So take a moment and actually figure that out. Do you want to be known as luxury, investment property, residential, first time home buyers, VA, USDA, commercial? Uh, international, whatever it might be, figure that out and you need to stick to it. And then that's the messaging you're going to put out into the world. So you need to figure out what can you be the best at. And that was something I had to figure out in my space was where was there a gap and what could I be the best at? The best way to think of brand is you play at the edges. You don't want to play in the middle because you get lost in translation, you get lost in the messaging. People don't talk about things not polarizing. And if you're not at an edge, people won't think of you in those situations. So that's the reason why certain politicians get more airtime than others. It's a reason some athletes and actors and famous people get the exposure that they do because they do things that are at the edges they're worth talking about. And that's what makes something remarkable. It's worth making a remark about. So, and that's marketing, right? You see how it all combines itself. So you have to be in an area where you apply to a specific subset of people who are interested in and back you. There's a lot that goes into creating a community behind that I won't get into. Um, but let's get into how you craft the story behind it. So you've written down some topics that you can talk about this point. You've tried to figure out what your niche is going to be. You now understand why branding is important, why people should talk about you, and how it can really lead to more business. Because when someone thinks, luxury agent in uptown Charlotte, you're the go to person. You control that market. And once you do that, then you can expand out from there. So, what's the story you should tell? And I mentioned, you have these topics of things you talk about, but how do you craft a story around it? The best story we have is the hero's journey. If you've ever tried to listen to marketing things, this comes up all the time. So, you want to think of the hero's journey. Where did you start? What trials and tribulations did you go through? And then where did you end up? Just as a tidbit, people don't particularly support people that start at the top. They want to see you fail. So you don't want to start your story there. People love the come from behind story. They love people who go through struggle. So if you can formulate your story in that method, I would do that. So as an example, you would say, I started off in a family with no money, or we were lower middle class. We were poor. We were on food stamps. My family moved to America when I was 2. Whatever that story is, find a beginning that puts you in a place that shows growth, that you found a purpose over time. Talk about some of the trials and things you went through to figure out why you became a realtor, what value you can bring to people, and why you do what you do. And then at the end, you want to say, this is why I became a real estate agent, because I want to help these people. That should apply to the niche that you chose. So tie in your niche to where you were trying to go in this story, and why you've become who you are. Because, like Simon Sinek said, a great business really starts with its why. So you need to start at your core for why you're doing what you're doing, why you're helping the people you're trying to help. And that is what helps people identify with your brand from an emotional point of view. That ties them to you, because they say, oh, that's where I started, or oh, I went through that same thing, or oh, I try to do the same thing for people. That's the connection, right? That's how you emotionally connect with people. It's through stories. Stories are the number one way that people remember things. So that's what you want to do, is sit down and try to craft this story of yours and how that ties into your brand. We call this a brand story. Since you are your brand, then it's your story. Okay. Just tie it in to what you do for a living and how it applies to the niche you want to attack. That's how you create a brand story. And just as a tidbit, because I know some people will think of this, when you create a brand or the name of your firm or the name of your company, do not separate it from your personal self. Make sure that if you have an Instagram, it's you, and you talk about these things through your Instagram. If you want to share family photos, do that as well. That's part of your brand. You can share family photos and share your business stuff through the same business account. I recommend, if you have more than one business account, shut your business account down unless you have a whole team and it's under that brand. That's fine. But the things you share in your business world need to be in your brand. Everything is going that way. People are no longer really identifying with the companies anymore. If you're trying to grow on social, I highly recommend you start tying it into your personal branding and your personal accounts, because people do business with people. We're moving into that even more. And we're even getting away from the overproduced content. We're getting more to the raw, like this content. It's not edited, it's straight to you. It's just trying to provide value and information. Things are going more this way than the overproduced way. And again, the middle is going to get eaten up. So it's either going to be highly, highly overproduced, eye catching stuff, or very raw, very informative, I identify with this person type of stuff. But I digress. Getting off topic here, just trying to give more information. So building a consistent visual identity. So this is pretty interesting. When I did this for my brand, I had to really sit down and figure out how I was going to formulate it. If you've been to my social, it's a blue elephant. I'm so new in this; it takes time. I just switched that at the beginning of this year. It feels longer, but I think it's only been like since February, since I've been running with the rebrand. So I really sat down and had to say, why a blue elephant? And my slogan is, let's talk about the elephant in the room, because Most people aren't working on their marketing and they don't want to face the facts, kind of what we do with finance sometimes. So it's a blue elephant because elephants are seen as um, remembering, having knowledge, trustworthy, place of solace. It's blue for the same reasons: peaceful, tranquil. Again, someone you can lean on. So I was very thoughtful in the colors, the identity I wanted to push out into the world with the logo, the slogan, the colors, the fonts. So all of this can send a subconscious message, and each color has a different message behind it. And so when it comes to your brand, sit down and start thinking about what colors you want. That's why you see green in finance all the time. It's the color of money. It's also the color of growth. So when finance, you want to grow your finances, that's why they're all green. Lending Tree, Robinhood. You go down the list. If they're not green, they're probably blue because blue identifies with trustworthiness. Betterment is blue. Wealthfront is green. And so those are the two most popular colors, I would say, when it comes to companies. If you want to go more luxurious, that's where your black will come into play. That's where your yellows or reds could be playful as an accent color. So think about what kind of message you want to send when you choose the color you want to go. Um, the next thing is fonts. If you want a fanciful font or you want a bold, like Roboto font, that's very clean. That's one of the more common fonts that are chosen. So think about that when it comes to your brand of, do you want curves? Do you want edges? Do you want to be creative? Do you want it to be clean, luxurious? It's all important. There's a reason luxury brands are done the way they're done, is because it gives off this perception of higher end and being more expensive. So think about that when it comes to your own brand. What do you want people to think of when they see your logo, see your face, see what you're wearing, see the things you type out? Um, let's see here. Next, let's talk about establishing your online presence. So now that we've done some work with your branding, we've talked a little bit about what it is, your story, um, digitally. So I won't get into the technical aspects of it. I'll talk more about how to approach it from more of a beginner level across the digital platforms. So you want your same image and the same username to be used on all social media platforms. Same image, same username, same similar bio. Some bios cut down on the characters that you can use. It all needs to be the exact same because you're trying to build an identity. So you want the same message in every single place, same image, so that when they see your image, they know the exact person that they're looking at. And this goes through your rebrand. If you're rebranding, then make sure you change it to the same one thing. It's very important. So that's what I would say would be step number one for all accounts. The second thing is to optimize all your accounts. What do I mean by this? I mean, optimize by one, you need the same photo, you need the same username. If you have headers like on Facebook and Twitter and even LinkedIn, make sure that they all are the same or similar, with the same messaging. Also, make sure your bios again are about the same and make sure they're complete. So on Facebook, if you have a business page, it sometimes will create, well, every time it creates it with some junk. It'll have like my movies, my books, the pages I've visited. Get rid of all that. It's not optimized. You also want to have a link that is a URL to your personal website or to a landing page. Make sure that's on every single one of your social media accounts. You want to switch your um, account on Instagram to a creator or business account. Same deal for TikTok. This will allow you to eventually run ads, but it also gives you analytics, which are very important. You need to see who your audience is over time and who your brand is connecting with. This tells you who you need to speak to. It's a big difference if it's men versus women, older versus younger. That helps you to formulate the messaging because you know who you're speaking to, and it gives you a much better idea of how to get your information out into the world. So those are some pieces of advice I would say for your social accounts. What else do we want to talk about here? Delivering exceptional customer experiences. I don't think there's much to be said here, other than customer service will make or break your business based on how well you treat your customers. one thing I have done when building marketing plans or brand profiles is you want to think of tonality. So how do you speak to people? It's very important. I This is why I think when you do a brand, you don't do the persona. I think you have to be yourself because you can break out of that very easily when you revert and get comfortable with being yourself. Some people, are laid back. They cuss a lot. They're themselves in, however manner it may be. So that's fine. That just be clear with people that's your tonality. If you like to speak very intellectual or slow, or you're more introverted, make sure people understand that's your tonality. That's how they will be treated and approached. Either I'm very hand holding all the way through, which is what most realtors will run on, versus I have a team that's going to take care of you. I come in with for portions that are very important, but we have a guide that gets you through each step on your own. So we work with people who are more self-sufficient, have been through this process before. So tonality will play a big role based on who you want to target, what your niche is going to be, but be clear on what that is so people can set expectations when you then go to provide customer service. So it's a big thing of just setting expectations that allows you to perform very good customer service that goes with your brand. Um, and then let's talk about evolving your brand over time. And so this gets very interesting when it comes to like market changes, trend shifts, and how that might apply to your brand. Yeah, so I've probably rebranded 3 times at least. And for me, it was because I saw a market gap in real estate marketing, particularly. And so my messaging needed to switch because it was heavy finance at one point. Then that switched to real estate investments at another point, then just mortgage in general. And now it's changed to specifically a combination more so of real estate and marketing. So it's a little bit of both. So now I'm more of the passionate info, exciting fun facts on real estate, but then specific deep dive expertise when it comes to digital marketing. So now when people see my profiles, it's, oh, very expert level digital marketing tips I can use, but also real estate information I'm also interested in that someone may see, like AI properties or the markets that are the hottest right now, or how to invest and make money. So it took some time to formulate this, and it may for you as well. As you start putting things out into the world, you'll start to learn what you're interested in and what you enjoy doing. It'll just naturally happen over time that you continue to produce the information that you also find interesting. And that's just how it changes. And then one piece of advice is don't jump on trends, because what happens is people will start associating you with trends and you're always behind. A trend has already happened or is in play before you can get to a trend, unless somehow you're a trendsetter, which is very difficult to do. So that's why I don't play with trends. If you wanna go do a dance or a ice bucket challenge or things like that, yeah, you can go viral, but most of the time it will have nothing to do with your brand. So I recommend not following the trends, that you stick to your own things. And if you do this 10, 15, 20 years, then sure, you might be able to start setting those trends. So stick to the things that you're good at so people can identify your material with your brand, not the trends. So stick to that. But when markets shift, you might have to shift strategy, just as I have. I spoke with a realtor the other day who stepped away from helping buyers to then develop property because there's obviously an inventory shortage. So it was a very smart idea to switch over into development. If that is a strategic play, then you can keep your brand, but then you have an aspect of what the next thing you're doing. Think of a variety show on television. Those get more reach than just like your Colbert. Colbert just does like the same type of newsy type of things, but um, who's the late night Jimmy Fallon will have more of like he'll do a skit or he'll do music or he'll then have an interview or he'll talk about the news. It's more of a variety show. That's what I would say you should lean into as we move into the future. So that gives you the ability to evolve with markets and maybe tie in some trends, things, and get away with it. So that's a useful aspect you can use as you move forward with growing your brand. So, in conclusion, I would say that you want to start immediately on figuring out what aspects make up who you are. What is your niche? What are your markets? What do you want to push? What do you want people to think? What are the colors? What are the fonts? And how do you make yourself different? What are you an expert in? Who are you going to tell no? And sit down and figure out all of those things that make up your brand. Then make sure all your social accounts are on the same page and then start getting the content out there. You do that long enough and you can create a brand.